this afternoon session, we're going to be covering the challenges in relation to the human rights aspect for business organizations. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Pakorn, Dr. Pakorn Peetathawatchai, the president of the Stock Exchange of Thailand, who will be giving a keynote speech for this afternoon session. The floor is yours, Dr. Pakorn. So the Secretary General of the Government Pension Fund, the executive of the UNEP-FI, the United Nations Environment Program Finance Initiative, and the partnering organizations, also the executives of the listed companies, investors, and participants. Currently, sustainable business conduct is something that all of us, whether you are a listed company, investors, or entities in the capital market and the Stock Exchange of Thailand, have been prioritizing and promoting continuously for quite a while. The business conduct at the present focuses on the management of environmental, social, and governance aspect, or what we call ESG. It is related to business risk management and also relate to the creation of resilience and long-term growth of the business as well. And that also leads to the interest and credibility and also acceptance by investors, customers, traders, and also communities as a whole. There are a number of companies that are accepted in Thailand as a sustainable company, and in 2020 there are a number of listed companies that has been included in sustainable indicators. For example, Dow Jones Sustainability Index, or DJSI, MSCI ESG Universal Index, and FTSE for Good Emerging Indexes as well. And there are listed companies in Thailand. Listed companies in Thailand have been selected to be included in such indexes. And for Thailand itself, we have already compiled and created the Thailand Sustainability Investment, or THSI, and there are 124 companies, listed companies, that are included within this index. And these initiatives reflected the development and determination of the listed company on ESG initiatives, and also to enhance the quality of our operation continuously as well. And this is something that is in the focus of the investors as well. From the investor side, there are higher interest in sustainable investment, and currently the UNPRI, the number of signatories included in the UNPRI that are ready to declare their determination on responsible investing are continuously increasing. If we look back at the year 2015, the signatories of UNPRI was only about 1,500, and that was about $50 trillion. But now we have about 3,000 signatories under the UNPRI, and the value of the AUM is about $100 trillion as well. And that is a leap over the past 5 years. If we look at Thailand, we also have the asset management, 32 asset management that are under the ESG collaborative engagement as well. And that is something that GPF also took part in, and almost all of the signatories are ICODE of the Securities Exchange Commission as well. We have funds relating to CG and ESG that are the numbers of which are increasing continuously. In 2018, we have about 20 CG and ESG funds, and which was increased to 40 in 2020. And another observation that we have is that the pattern of investment that take into account the sustainable investment continues to change. In the past, the ESG was based on the negative screening, and the focus was not so strongly on ESG. But currently, investors require more and more ESG information to see the investment pattern of any particular company. And that leads to a higher ESG integration, and also investors started to play a role as the active ownership with proxy voting, and that leads to a requirement of continuous development and improvement of ESG. I think in the future we will see the trend in relation to investment strategies and also investment products that can be scaled up using the analysis on ESG, whether it is in terms of environment, social, or governance, and that also includes climate change and human rights. We can see that companies and investors started to pay attention and prioritize ESG, and we can see the trend that are becoming more and more important, especially the current situation. We are still facing the global fluctuation and uncertainties in the investment market, especially for COVID-19 situation, that I personally believe that in the future we'll continue to encounter these kind of situations because we're very interconnected globally, and therefore the business sector will have to continue to prioritize their social and environmental initiatives, whether it is the labor rights, the health and safety, occupational health and safety and sanitation, and also management relating to supply chains, to ensure that they are aligned with the regulatory standards so that the businesses can grow in the new normal era. Directors and executives of companies nowadays, they set the sustainability as one of their goals in their administration of the company, and also they integrate ESG into their business conduct. And the Stock Exchange of Thailand, we also promote the management buy-in, whereby the executives and directors can basically set the tone from the top based on ESG from the moment that the company become a listed company in the Stock Exchange of Thailand. So this webinar is a very good seminar for the current climate, and this can be the initiative that can push forward the management of the company to concern ESG even more. And by way of example, I would like to give you some examples on a sustainable business conduct. We have already compiled and distributed the Corporate Sustainability Guide. This guide can provide information and also the basic understanding of the elements of sustainable business for business operators, and also the important points in business conduct, taking into account the social and environmental aspects. This can help the companies to sustainably operate their businesses, and also the Stock Exchange of Thailand is in the process of compiling the checklist on social risks for each industry sector, and that checklist can be used to close the gaps and also for businesses to analyze what are the risks on human rights violation and also labor violation as well. Also, the Stock Exchange of Thailand has provide training on supply chain management to promote the respect of human rights for employees and laborers, and also by the traders of any listed companies as well. And more importantly, we have worked with the Securities Exchange Commission to increase the level of information disclosure, and also especially on human rights aspect, whereby we require that from next year on, each company will have to disclose information in relation to human rights. Also, if we do not have the ESG data platform, everything that we do will be very of minimum value. So we are in the process of developing the ESG data platform so that the one report disclosure can be in the form of structured data that is standardized, can be used in practice, and also can lead to a responsible investing, and at the same time can help increase the efficiency of the disclosure of information by listed companies as well. So this joint webinar is another step forward, and it is another step of the collaboration between GPF, UNEP, FI, and also the partnering agencies for us to come together and create the human rights heat map of the country, so that the business sector, especially the listed company in Thailand, can analyze and also manage key issues relating to human rights and also social risks that are involved in the operation and also all along the value chain of the company, so that the company can remain strong, be resilient, and also can manage the risks effectively as well. So finally, on behalf of the SET, Stock Exchange of Thailand. I would like to thank the Government Pension Fund, UNEP-FI, and also the partnering agencies for hosting this joint webinar to promote all sectors on the importance of sustainable business conduct and also to together push forward our process, our operation on and responsibility towards human rights in the business sector of Thailand, and which will lead to responsible investing nationally and regionally as well. So thank you, Dr. Pakorn, for delivering a very remarkable keynote speech. So this is something that we are looking for, the One Report initiative and also the ESG data platform that listed companies can rely on, and also they can rely on such platform in their disclosure information that I think will be very, very valuable to investors as well. So next, we will be hearing from experiences in integrating human rights into business operation. So we are honored by 3 distinguished experts from leading corporations which are listed companies in Thailand, being KASIKORNBANK PLC, Thai Union Group, and Sansiri PLC as well, all of whom will be joining us in sharing their experience relating to human rights aspects. So first of all, I would like to invite Ms. Romchat Songsiri, the Senior Vice President, Investors Relations and Sustainability Development, and also the Co-Department Head of the Office of Corporate Secretary, the KASIKORNBANK PLC, who will be delivering a speech on financial inclusion at the Bank of Sustainability. So, Ms. Romchat, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to share my slide. Wait one moment, please. Today, I'll talk about financial inclusion at the Bank of Sustainability. The agenda today will include these 3 topics. The first one is on the definition of financial inclusion and relationship of sustainability, human rights, and financial inclusion. We will also be talking about the roles of financial institutions and trend of financial inclusion. And lastly, we'll be talking about KASIKORNBANK Bank, the overall picture of the bank and what we did for financial inclusion. And from this slide, you will see that many international organizations have given the definition about financial inclusions, and they're going in the same directions. And mainly, financial inclusion means that including public and business sectors and giving them easy access to financial services at an affordable price. And so this leads to sustainable economy, and it will also help with social inclusion. And how is financial inclusion related to human rights and sustainability? So this slide shows that the ultimate goal that we all know is sustainability, and we have 17 SDG goals, and human rights is the core part of this, and every organization can develop toward sustainability like that. So SDG already incorporated human rights in there already. Financial inclusion is one of the enabler or the key components that allow us to work on human rights issues. This will help reduce the inequality and allowing people to be able to access financial services. The main contributor or the main factors that allow us to reach the point where we have financial inclusion is not just financial institutions, but also technology, governments and regulators, and all these organizations play a big role. And next, I'm going to talk about the roles of financial institutions and also the trend of financial inclusion. For the roles of financial service provider, we have two main roles. The first one is to provide financial service or a financial service provider. Second, we are responsible corporate citizen. As you can see, on sustainable development, we have to do it in a dynamic manner. It is endless. We have to have a standard set. We have to have practical implementation. We would have to have monitoring and evaluation, and we also have to have reporting and benchmark, and also disclosing the result to the stakeholder. We also need to engage all the stakeholders. In terms of implementation on sustainability or sustainable development, we also include ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. The main role of financial institution is to provide financial service and be a good citizen in the society. And financial inclusion is one of the things that we can do for the society as a financial service provider. And on human rights, this is something that financial institutions can do to present itself or to be a responsible corporate citizen. Financial inclusion may not be everything that financial institutions do. We also work on other part of ESG, and everything that we do, when combined, it can actually create a sustainable development to the economy and also to the overall society. You can see that the financial inclusion trend is coming and it's global, and many organizations attach importance to it. For example, the World Bank Group, they have a goal to provide access to the global citizens to be able to access financial services by 2020. And UNEP, UNEPFI, Financial Initiative, they encourage institutions to work on financial inclusion and have a clear target on this matter. If we look at the financial institutions around the world, we will see that these are the products and services of the global financial institutions. It actually is diverse. For example, there is service provision through mobile banking, and people can access financial services easier, including senior citizens or those who are underprivileged. They have improved the facilities in order to serve all kinds of customers, including, for example, they have improved their machines at the branches. And on given funding, we don't give funding only to big customers, but also to retail customers, for example, SME and other entrepreneurs. As you can see in the picture, Thai household can access financial services more and more. You can see the numbers that the number is increasing, and there's only 1% of the population who cannot access financial service. You can see that the access of a financial service in Thai household, you can see that the not semi-formal or non-formal, informal loan is less and less over time. So this development is to make sure that every group of customer can access financial service across the board. And next, for KASIKORNBANK, let's see what we did in terms of financial inclusion. Before I move on to financial inclusion, I would like to share on behalf of KASIKORNBANK. We are the bank that operates under sustainability concepts, under good governance and appropriate risk and cost management. We also account for a balance of economic, social, and environmental dimensions. We have our goals and policy for each dimension, and financial inclusion is one of our policies. In order to achieve financial inclusion, we'd have to develop products and the system in our ecosystem. Next is on the framework and policy of KASIKORNBANK. As I said earlier, we give importance to the balance of economy, society, and the environment. We can see that financial inclusion is under society, and also human rights is also under society part. But what is as important is financial literacy. Besides giving them access to financial services, we would have to educate customers about finance so that they can choose the appropriate products and services for themselves. Financial inclusion is also included into the customer centricity and a lot of other products to meet the demands of the customers. Human rights. We do respect human rights and diversity. On human rights, it's not just a policy on human rights, but we also incorporate human rights dimensions in other part of our policy. For example, we treat our employees equally. When we consider for loan approval, considering ESG factors, we would also include human rights dimension into the consideration. Next, it is our samples of financial inclusion. The first one is sharing platform. You probably know the mobile banking from our bank. It's called K+. It is the mobile banking application that allows customers to access financial services anywhere, anytime. We have been developing new features all the time so that the customers can use the features, and the K+ customers, that we have 14 million K+ customers, and we have 70% more transaction last year. And next is on our ecosystems. What do we do in our ecosystem? For example, we have banking agents. We have different banking agents that allows customers to be able to access financial services in many different ways. Beside from having branches, ATM, and mobile banking, customers can withdraw money, deposit money, or make a payment in the banking agents who are partnered with us, including Post Office, 7-Eleven, and Big C. You can see that the number of transactions have been increasing constantly, and we have partnered with different companies, whether it's e-commerce platform or social media like Facebook, or a joint venture that we have with Line. We have a new company called Line BK, which is a part that allows customers to access financial services easier. They can open their account, they can transfer the money, and they can also request for a loan more easily and conveniently. And for the products and services, for other products and services that we offer to the customers, as a sample of financial inclusion, in our K+, we have expanded our customer base to children aged 12 to 14 years old. They can avail the service of K+ already. Previously, we only allow someone who's above 15 years old. And also we provide micro insurance This is the life insurance that has a premium of less than 1,000 baht per year. And we also provide free COVID insurance for K Plus customers. We also have dengue fever insurance with the premium of 99 baht and above. And also we have insurance for senior citizens as well. And because of COVID situation, the customers, the businesses, the banks, and other organizations face many challenges. The bank, as the financial service provider, we have to help our customers through many different measures, including this program called เท่าแก่ใจดีเจ้าหนี้มีใจ so we help businesses reduce help with their financial cash flow in their operation. We give zero interest rate loan for SME so that they can retain their staff, and we work together with a lot of other organizations to issue soft loan. What I've presented is one of the many things that we believe and we have done as a bank of sustainability. The important thing is that sustainability is a never-ending process. It has to be done constantly, dynamically, and it cannot be done alone. It will require cooperation from all sectors, cooperation within the organization and cross sectors, and from governments and other sectors, just to have the same standard in the ecosystem so that we can have a sustainable country onwards.
So I would like to thank Kun Romchat for giving us a very remarkable speech as well, and also very valuable information. We can see that business operators, no matter what the business is, they have two roles, that one being the business operator, the other one is being a good citizen to the society. If we pay attention, if we prioritize both roles, we can have a sustainable economy, and K-Bank itself has so many initiatives and projects that can enhance accessibility to financial services. So thank you so much, Ms. Romchat. So next on the agenda, I would like to invite Mr. Prad Kerdpairoj, Director of Sustainability for Asia Region from Thai Union Group PLC. He will be sharing his experiences in relation to risk management on modern slavery in the supply chain. So, Kun Prad, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Prad. I am the Director of Sustainability for Asia Region for Thai Union. I'm also the manager on the Human Rights Department as well. So first of all, I would like to share my slide.
โอเคครับวันนี้เนี่ยผมอยากจะถือโอกาส
For today, I would like to take the opportunity to basically share my experiences for the business of Thai Union, that we have been working on human rights, specifically on labor rights and modern slavery, the use of and also prevention of forced labor, and to prevent unethical labor exploitation, both for our company and also in our supply chains as well. First of all, in terms of our mission, I would like to just share that the mission of our company is for us to, we want to be the agent of change, to affect real positive impact. So what we do is to push forward positive impact, whether business-wise or sustainability-wise, and also in terms of human rights management as well. And in our operation, we want to make sure that the seafood industry, both domestically and also outside of Thailand as well, we want to lead that to lead a positive change, not only in terms of human rights, we want to make that available in our supply chain as well. So first of all, I would like to just give you an overview picture of the footprints of Thai Union. We, were in Thailand and we were established 40 years ago, and we expanded our corporations, we expanded our production line to cover about 17 production locations around the world. We have factories in Thailand, Vietnam, and also in Europe, in America, and Africa as well. We have about 42,000 employees worldwide, and the responsibility in terms of human rights in the supply chain has to be expanded accordingly as well. So this is not only in relation to our employees in our company, but also those in the supply chains that we're not their direct employer. Those laborers on the fishing vessel or in factories that are our traders, our trade partners, basically. Also, I would like to highlight some achievements of Thai Union relating to human rights. From the last year's estimation of Dow Jones Sustainability Index, we were ranked as a gold class distinction in S&P Global Sustainability Yearbook for food industry. And there were more than 7,000 companies being assessed under this particular award. And also in terms of social and human rights aspect, we ranked #1 as well. Also, we were assessed by Seafood Stewardship Index that assess about 30 companies that are major seafood corporations worldwide, to see what are the contributions of these companies, what are our initiatives to create this ESG framework and ESG initiative, and we were ranked #1 as well. Last year, we were awarded with Human Rights Awards as the organization in the private sector that act as a role model, and this award was given because we were the role model organization for best practices in human rights, regardless of the nationality of the migrant workers. And this is awarded, we were awarded by the Thai Ministry of Justice. So our initiative in terms of human rights are under the umbrella framework that we call Sea Change. And this is one of the projects that Thai Union groups enforce across the globe. And that also includes the environmental aspect as well. This is the overview, the overarching objectives of Thai Union in relation to Sea Change. As you can see from the screen right now, the second point that we are enforcing is that we are relating to labor rights. We want to ensure that our workers are safe, that they are legally employed, and they're empowered. They have a voice. So our implementation and operation relating to labor rights and human rights is under the first pillar of Sea Change program, which is safe and legal labor. Also, our company, what are the frameworks of our work relating to human rights and social issues? So this is something that we call human rights and due diligence framework, and that we adopted this particular principle from the United Nations Guiding Principle on Business and Human Rights, or what we call UNGP. And this particular due diligence framework, we can divide that into 6 pillars. The first one is the commitment, the basic statement, and also the policies. Basically, we need to locate the standpoint of the company as the human right, that we respect human rights. And also the second one is we have to assess the risk in the supply chain, in the value chain. We need to identify the level of risk exposure in our supply chain and value chain in our day-to-day operation. And after that, when we identify the risks, we can then prevent the risk from causing harm. We need to have available mechanisms in order to prevent and minimize human rights violations, or to prevent it from the get-go. And also on the fourth pillar is that even though we can identify the risks, we cannot be too relaxed about it. We need to have available the measures to audit or to detect, to see whether there is any violation or not, both in our company and also in our supply chain as well. If we see that there is any violation or if there is any breach of the code of conduct, we need to mitigate that. We need to address that. And that is under the pillar number 5, which is provision facilitating access to remedies. This is where we provide remedial actions to prevent similar problem from occurring. And the 6th one, which is very important, is that we emphasize on transparency. So all of the projects and all of the steps taken under step 1 to 5, has to be traceable, has to be transparent. We will disclose the sustainability report in our annual reporting and also on one report platform as well, and also in the company's website. So next, I would like to just go over briefly about the details of our 6 pillars and to provide you with concrete examples. The first one about the statement and policies on human rights. This is based on the international standard, which is UNGP or UN Global Compact. The 10 principles under the UNGP and UN Global Compact, and we then adopt that and create this first pillar of safe and legal labor. And we set the milestone, the sub-milestone, which contains 5 specific topics. And after we set the target, then we issue policies. As you can see now, the policies on human rights, and also we make available the code of conduct that is applicable to our employees and also our operation. Also, we provide code of conduct for our suppliers as well. So next, I would like to give you the 3rd example. In the 3rd pillar, part of the prevention is that we need to ensure that all the employees understand what are their rights, what are their colleagues' rights. For example, on the picture on the left, you can see that this is the pre-departure training. The pre-departure training that we provided for employees who are coming from Myanmar. This will be conducted in the country of origin, basically to provide them with understanding of the Thai labor law and also the employment contracts that they will have to sign, and also what are their rights, what are their entitlements, and what are their obligations. Also, when they arrive in Thailand, we will be providing them with orientation training. Also, that will cover the rights of employment, labor rights as well. And also under the same pillar of prevention, the 3rd pillar, we need to also ensure that our trade partners understand the labor rights, what the rights that the suppliers or the trade partners need to respect. On the image on the left, that is the workshop that we held a number of times in order to provide training to the vessel owners and fishing laborers in Thailand, and the training will cover the health and safety issues on working on fishing vessels. If there is any in the event that there is any accident from the use of fishing gears, what do they have to do, how to conduct CPR, and that we collaborate with ITF in this regard as well. And on the right, on the image on the right, we need to accept that there is a risk of modern slavery. And modern slavery and labor rights violation can be, can start from the very beginning stage, for example, the recruitment stage, and that can be the unfair overcharging of recruitment fees as well, and that we have to provide training to our recruiters. And under the same pillar of prevention, we have to adopt the ethical migrant recruitment policy, and that will set out the fees that will be required, at Thai Union as the company, as the employer. What do we need to pay for the employees, and also what do the employees need to pay by themselves? This is to ensure that everything is transparent and that the employees understand what they have to do and what are the financial burden they have to take. Also, another thing that we do is under the 4th pillar, which is detection, is that we detect. And what we prioritize as a very first step is that we need to ensure that the workers have a voice. Whenever they think that they are violated, we have to make sure that they know that they can come to us without having to be scared of retaliation. So we need them to speak out, basically. As you can see from the left image, that is when we try to, encourage the laborers to join the welfare committee. Also, we work with NGOs in order to, in the event that they are not feeling comfortable to talk to us, they can talk to NGOs who are our partner as well. So this image on the screen is when we try to strengthen the worker welfare committee. We want to promote that the employees, regardless of their nationalities, that we want to encourage them to join the welfare committee so that they can be the voice, be the representative of other employees. Also, another thing that is very interesting at the supply chain level is that the auditing and also the inspection of fishing vessels, and we conduct this inspection all over the world. For tuna fishing vessels, we send our auditors to these fishing vessels, about 100 of them, in every area. We need to inspect whether they are treating the laborers legitimately. We want to hear the voice of the fishing workers as well. And that is also conducted in Thailand for the trade partners that we work with. Also, next is this is one of the remedial actions that we take. If we see that there is any violation or incompliance, we will conduct certain actions that, for example, the image on the left, you can see that we try to provide the transparency. We will have to set out, for example, the fees that the employees will have to bear and the fees that they do not have to bear. This is one of the actions to create the transparency. And if we identify that there is any overcharging activities, we will repay the workers the amount that they have paid. And that is something that we have to do along with the NGOs in order to ensure that we can provide the remedial actions to the employees. Also, in terms of innovation, we also install electronic monitoring devices on the fishing vessels, and we use this particular device in order to detect any illegal fishing. And this particular device can also tell us whether there is any labor rights violation as well. So next, what we do in Thailand is we are piloting the digital traceability on the fishing vessels by installing the satellite device on the demonstration vessel. And once the device is installed, those fishing workers who are far at sea, they can connect. Their phones can be connected to the satellite system, and they can be in contact with their families, with their wives who are on the mainland. So this also enhances labor rights as well. We believe that the operation of Thai Union in relation to human rights cannot be done in isolation. We need to work on this with other partners. For example, in other countries, we work with the UN Global Compact Network. In Thailand, in the regional level, we work with other governments under the Bali Process, Government and Business Forum, and also as a business operator that also exists at the global level, we are enhancing, where we are trying to emphasize the human rights work under the Global Sustainable Seafood Initiative, or GSSI. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. So thank you, Mr. Prad. We can see from your presentation that the companies or businesses are not only responsible for their own particular company, but they have to be responsible for the supply chain and the traders that they work with as well. So, human rights violation sometimes is not within our own operation, but it exists in our supply chain, especially for supply chains that are very complicated, or when we're not even directly involved in that operation. So we need to have available a very good supply chain management to prevent any a violation that may take place. So thank you so much, Kun Prad, for giving us a very clear picture, and also, sharing your experience in terms of the human rights management in the supply chain as well. So next, we are honored by Mr. Samatcha Promsiri, the Chief of Staff of Sansiri PLC. He will be talking about the involvement of Sansiri in building the future for children. The floor is yours, Mr. Samatcha.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? I'd like to thank the organizers to have given me the honor to share our experience in children's rights in the real estate industry. Sansiri, I have to say that we just started working on sustainability issues from the past 5 years only. But before we worked on sustainability, we were working on children and children's rights for over 10 years. There may be questions from you guys that we are real estate companies. Why do we have to focus on children? Like we should just focus on environment or labor issues. I have to say that in our organization's perspective, children are the future of our nation. We see that in the end, Thailand will become an aging society. Those who are children now, they are an important driving force of the country's economy in the future. They're the one caring for the elderly in the future. So that's why we are focusing on children's rights. When we started working on this issue, we started from doing CSR work. We didn't really understand thoroughly what children's rights are. We were just doing CSR activity. We give them scholarships. We go to the ground. We give them computers and just small activities that we did. Until 10 years ago, we got a chance to meet staff from UNICEF who is responsible in children's rights issues. So we discussed, and they are looking for a company that can be someone who can voice or talk about children's rights, and so we have a common purpose. So we started take up the program on children's rights with UNICEF. This is the point where we transform our perspective towards children's rights. Because we have a partner who have insights and who can support us with information on this matter, it allows us to understand this issue better. I would like to share my slides with you. So we partner with UNICEF for over 10 years. On the left, Mr. Thomas is the country representative. He just finished his tenure, and then we have a new representative now. We were working with Mr. Thomas, the previous representative, and now the second representative is the person who we're working with. So we're working with two representatives already. This one is about lesson learned. What we learned about children's rights, what it's composed of, rights of survival, rights of development, rights of protection, rights of participation. We incorporate these principles in our business practice. And we endorse these principles as well as recommend our business partners to endorse and adopt them too. Our partners involve property developers. We don't have our own subcontractors or construction workers. What we have to do is that we have to involve these parties as they can help facilitate and take this knowledge and transfer and educate their people. How did we start? So I'll show you the picture. Before we worked on children's rights, we already had children's activities relating to children. Our management sees that sports is important for children. They will learn many things from there. We felt that soccer is a grassroots sport that can access many people. So we've been working on this for over 15 years. So as I said, this started from CSR activities. We taught them soccer. They have trainers. They can utilize their time. Once we understood about children's rights, we applied these principles to our work, to our activities, and we see which activity has these principles involved. If the activities have the principle, then we will continue. For example, the soccer project, we deal with stakeholders who are communities in that area. We provide activities to children. It can be anyone around in that area, in that community. So this allows the kids to be able to improve themselves, to develop. This is about the right to participate. They can talk, discuss, share their knowledge. They can feel camaraderie with their friends, their peers. In terms of families, they are from different backgrounds. The activities that we are doing, if it aligns with the children's rights, then we will keep them and continue them on. There are new activities that we just started after learning about children's rights with UNICEF. One of the things that we did, UNICEF has raised the importance about baby and breastfeeding. When the baby is born, mother's milk is very essential to the development of the brain functions of the kids. We see that the welfare provided to mother is a common issue. We didn't really pay attention, but after we understood better that how that mother's milk is important, we design a breastfeeding room for mothers at the workplace so that the mothers can keep the milk and then store it for their kids later. So for children's rights, this is not a direct solutions to children directly, but it's just tackling it indirectly by going through mothers. So in every organization, of course, workers get welfare. And we thought, how can we actually increase welfare on children? Before we moved the office, we moved to this office for over a year now. The location of new office changed, so there are some concerns about from workers who are parents. They're concerned about the time that they need to commute to work, and so that affect the time that they can spend with their children or to meet their children. So we came up with flexible scheme welfare. So I believe that COVID makes it common for a lot of organizations. We started this 2 years already, that workers can work anytime they wish, as long as they communicate with their supervisors that you are going to work, like the working hours that you want to do. So the working hours is flexible for them. So we have to change the attitude of the workers in the company. Some supervisors may think that why are you working less hours than others or something like that. But they have to understand that there are many components to children's rights, and we all have to help, give a helping hand, otherwise it's not going to happen. And the other issue is on good space or safe space for children. After cooperating with UNICEF, they went to our construction site. They saw that there are children who came to the work site with their migrant parents. And we can see that some parents would take their kids or their children to the construction site, or sometimes they would ask their kids or their children to bring something for them. So on principle, this is something that's not right. As an employer, we thought what we can do about this. So we have issued some regulations to every subcontractors that there must be no use of child labor in any construction site. Otherwise, there will be a termination of contract. This is one of the binding things that we did with them. Sometimes it's very difficult to ask them or request them to do something. So it is sometimes easier to just make them obligated to do something like this. So that is a pilot project that we did, the good and safe space for children. So to prevent the children from running around in the construction site, there are trucks running around, there are nails, there are hammers everywhere. So we in the construction site, we have built a room for the kids, and we have a teacher or someone to teach them or be with them. This is one of our learnings. We found that many things that relates to children's rights is hard to accomplish because it composes of a lot of components. The good space and safe space for children is a pilot project that we did. If it's successful, we can scale it out to other subcontractors. But in reality, there will be some problems, because at the construction site, there are buildings, there are infrastructures. They would require some teachers to teach these kids. In order to do it in 5 projects or 4 projects, it's not that difficult. But if we do it in all projects, then we may not get cooperation from all our subcontractors. And also we have issues with the kids. Sometimes the kids' ages are different, and so like because of their age difference, their learning level is different. So this is not the most successful activity that we did, but at least we did a pilot project and we know now what can be done, what are the limitations with the projects or with the activities. The other one that we did is the right to vaccination. This is the right, the normal right for everyone to get. Normal Thai kids, for them, their parents would take them to some clinic or some health providers and get vaccinated. But for migrant parents, sometimes they are afraid to take their kids outside of their area. They have a perception that they may be viewed as migrant. They may be asked to see their passports and such. Children rights has to do with people around them too. Parents do know that kids need to be vaccinated, but the health centers may be far away and it's not convenient for them, so they don't get to go. And so at times, the work site or construction site manager don't have this kind of knowledge, and they don't encourage these migrant parents to take their kids to vaccinate. So this is the obstacles that I'm talking about. UNICEF have suggested and told us before that kids have the right to get education, equal education. So I thought we thought about how to provide them with equal education. And in our pilot project, we had teachers to teach these kids, and we found that it's not practical because the kids' age are different, as I said. So the problem that we found is that the parents also moved in a different places in the construction site, in the construction area. After that particular phase is done, the parents move to other phase. And so in reality, there are factors like this. We have been learning along the process. In practice, things may be hard to implement. The first thing that I want to say is that what we should do on children's rights is that we have to fine-tune ourselves and try to look for what we want to do and what we can control. We can start from something small. For example, we can focus on the parents and the kids of the workers or employees in our organization. You can have a breastfeeding room. You can educate your employees that they have the right to go home early to take care of their children, and they don't have to be afraid that the supervisors would have bad attitude towards you or something like that. So I'm just saying that sometimes ambition needs to be fine-tuned. We have to fine-tune it with the environment. We have to see if we can do it. And we can start with small scales first. So this is the framework that we have for combating child labor. So how do we approach this, right? We have 100+ construction sites, and we have to consider whether we can go inspect our site, or we may have to ask the site manager to look if there is any child labor there. We would have to have a framework for them. We would have to have some sort of form for them to fill in so that they can communicate with the head of the workers or whoever is in charge and survey and get information of how many children are there in the work site and what are the and let them know that there are penalties if the kids are outside of the area, that just to create a common understanding among them, basically. So this is the real work site. the span, the area is large. So just one or two people, having just one or two people to see if there are any children there is pretty hard. So we have to create understanding for the parents, for the project manager, for the head of workers. There are many different levels of people whom we have to manage and have mutual understanding with. So these are our examples. At the work site in Bangkok and Greater Bangkok, they're all over. So in a day, we can go to maximum like 3 sites, and then we can go and talk to them and see if the parents understand about vaccination and things like that. The information that we get from UNICEF and our partners are global or regional information. But when we go on and work on the ground, things that we see may not match with the information that we obtained. We learned that there are some obstacles for them to access vaccinations, but we can't identify the obstacles yet. But as I said, the important thing is that the parents understand that they have the right to take their kids to get vaccines from health centers or in Bangkok or Greater Bangkok. They don't have to be afraid because they have their work permit. They just need to understand that they have the right, and it depends on whether they are willing to take their kids to get a vaccine and exercise their rights. This is one of the activities that we did. The right to protection that the kids should get, we would need to talk to their parents. During COVID, some employees talked to us and said that, okay, it's very stressful to be in the house. We invited psychiatrists or psychologists to talk to them to help with or alleviate their mental stress, because we understand that stress may cause violence or in the family. So this is something that we can start with, that we started with. This activity is conducted with the kids who are in our soccer academy. Sometimes the parents would scold the kids or and not compliment them when they do their when they play soccer. In the morning, the kids may do soccer, and in the evening, the kids may be going for extra school. The kids may be afraid to tell their parents that they may not want to do soccer or something. So we took some psychiatrists and to the parents to talk to the parents to just discuss their perspectives and also discuss the kids' perspectives so that they can express their opinions and create understandings among themselves. So the kids can also voice what they want and what they do not want to do in their lives. We just started doing activities on sustainability for 5 years. We have been working on children for a long time. We are now trying to frame activities relating to children into the sustainability framework that we are doing. Lastly, some things that we think that we can do, we can invest in. So there are times when you want to solve a problem and you just hand in solutions to them, but it's not possible to do that in some instances. You have to find partners who can help you or to drive the program to make it happen, there must be a good alignment among the partners, all the parties involved. Regardless of the rights, children's rights and whatever rights, it's not possible for one person or one entity to do it alone. Many components, many parties, many stakeholders are required. I agree with the previous two speakers. The speaker from K-Bank said that this is an endless process. It has to be adjusted and it has to be continued on, and it requires external parties to help and to materialize it. I'm not sure if my presentation is beneficial, but I hope it is beneficial for organizations that would like to work on children's rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samatcha, for sharing a very remarkable activities of Sansiri, from CSR activities to children's rights initiatives. I think this is a very, this is a good way forward, and this is a thing that other companies can adopt and also learn from as well. So next on the agenda is the panel discussion from all of the distinguished three speakers. If there is any questions from the floor, from the participants, please put that in the Q&A box, and I'm going to be asking these questions for you. So the first question that I would like to start with is the questions to all three of you, that from your experience, what are the key challenges, or what are the obstacles that you encounter? What are the key challenges in relation to managing human rights in your work? So I would like to start by Kun Romchat. So for financial institutions, I think, I understand that currently we have only having the banking license is not enough. We need the social license in our operation as well. So if the society does not want us to stand here, we basically cannot operate our business. So the term social license is not required only for financial institutions, but other organizations as well. In terms of challenges, I think the context of each company may be different. The challenges of each company, therefore, is different. So we need to see, challenges is not only in respect of human rights, but you can look at it, perceive it as the way forward to make available sustainability. So human rights is also involved and also embedded in a number of sustainable development goals as well. But if you want me to list out the main challenges, I can give you three. The first one would be we need to have clear target, we need to have clear goal. Like Mr. Pakorn said, that we have to set the tone at the top. Sometimes it is good to have a policy, but it's maybe not be good enough. So having a very clear strategy, having a clear target is good, but we need to also cascade that to the bottom level so that we can implement the effective, have a concrete implementation. Also, in terms of the second thing is the implementing the dynamic nature of the process, the never-ending nature of the process. If we have the target, if we have the policy, doesn't mean that we only need just that. In terms of financial institutions, we need to also review our sustainability development policy and also the risk management as well. We need to also look into the materiality assessment as well, because we need to, take into account the opinions of the stakeholders, both inside the organization and external stakeholders, to, be the foundation of our approach. Also, we need to take into account the rights and human rights as well. And the third one is that, we have a number of stakeholders that we need to take care of in our business, and we have both internal and external stakeholders and domestic and international stakeholders as well, while the risks and opportunities keep on coming. So it's like the challenge is that how do we balance the expectations? How do we balance the needs and challenges and also opportunities as well? How can we still stand on the basis of being the bank of sustainability? Also, how can we ensure that everybody is on the same page, that everybody is operating on the same philosophy, and how to ensure that they believe that this is the way forward, this is the survival path of the country, basically. Thank you. So the pressure nowadays are higher and higher, I would say. So, Kun Prad, what are the challenges in your view? So I would like just to share the two main challenges that I can see. The first one is, the nature of the business, for particularly the seafood businesses. The supply chain is very lengthy and very complicated, and labor rights and also related issues, for example, fishing vessels. Fishing vessels all over the world, when you're international waters, sometimes it is quite complicated, and inspection and detection of issues may be not so easy because we do not have eyes on the fishing vessels, basically. So the nature of the business itself is one of the challenges. The second challenge that I think is very interesting is that during the last year, towards the beginning of the year with the onset of COVID-19, we have to accept that we have emerging risks in the labor market, and we have to keep tabs on, we have to keep an eyes on that, almost on a day-to-day basis, whether it is our own employee or whether it is the fishing workers on the supply chain, on the fishing vessels of our supply chain. Also, with the COVID-19 situation, the due diligence activities, the protection, the compliance with the human rights framework that we have, we need to meet with people. We need to send in auditors to the field. We need to do the safety assessment and so on and so forth. With the COVID-19 pandemic, those activities cannot be conducted. We need to learn new ways to basically implement those activities and to ensure that the due diligence activities that we need to do and that we need to do face-to-face, how can we do that on an online platform? For example, for the auditing process of the fishing vessels, we piloted the virtual audit mechanisms, and also we provide training for suppliers through teleconferencing systems. Kun Samatcha, you have mentioned about the challenges and also other speakers as well. Do you have any other thing to add? Well, I used to be in marketing. So challenges, from my view, is that sometimes it is like a trap. It's like a trap for the organization, because sometimes, what we do is always connected with public relations and marketing initiatives. So we need to, first of all, be confident that we need to be doing it because we believe in it, not only to get, marketing attention or public attention. So that is something we need to create a balance on. As I said, I have been in marketing before. So, in the end, we will only do a portion of the things that we said we will do anyway. So I would say that the challenge is that we need to be serious. We need to really implement, do the things that we are committed to do, and we need to believe in what we do as well. So this is from the perspective of my personal perspective that I have experience in marketing, and I was in a trap, this trap that I'm mentioning as well. Sometimes doing something for the organization's image is not always adequate. So I have a question for KBank. For KBank, what is the level of priority or importance that you give towards human rights, and what are the criteria that you use when you want to get involved in business or when you want to grant any funding, because there are a number of dimensions in relation to human rights.
ก็จริงๆกะว่าจะตอบในคำถามข้อ2ด้วย
I was going to answer that in question 2, but I'll just answer it now. As a financial provider, we are the upstream to give funding to organizations. So the bank have incorporated human rights dimensions and other important dimensions, for example, environment, social, to also consider giving loan. We also consider ESG dimensions. ESG involves environment, social, and governance. And in our ESG lending or ESG process, we are limited to assessing big businesses. But last year, we expanded the scope to medium enterprises. They have to pass ESG criteria, and one of the components is human rights. It means that if that organization doesn't violate human rights, then if they violate human rights, we will not give them loans, because we have to give loan responsibly. What we give importance to is not on society, on the social part, but we also give importance on the environmental part. In the environmental part, we have exclusion list. This is the businesses that we won't give loans to. For example, these are the businesses that affect or create negative impact to the environment. In the SDG report, we will write a lot of details, like things in details about these things, and we have specific center guidance as well. Because bank is at the upstream, we have many stakeholders involved. Different stakeholders have different demands. So how do we balance these things without leaving or ignoring our business philosophy? How do we make sure our customers understand why we assess ESG? And on ESG, as I said, as Kun Pakorn has said earlier, in the past, people may focus on negative impacts, like they don't want this or they don't want that. But now, as a bank, we can promote or help organizations who are in the transition to get funding so that they can change for the better for the society and environment. So asking KBank as well. So how do you consider the suppliers of the companies who ask for loans? What is your audit process? So we have RM team to talk to the customer. We assess E&S. In the banking business, ESG is something that we attach importance to. E and S are new for us, so we have to make sure that our people understand what E and S are, and we would have to be able to communicate this to the customer and make sure that they understand it. How do we assess the customer suppliers, right? Let me go back. If it's the supplier of the bank, meaning that before we partner with anyone, we will assess them on human rights dimensions. But the next step is the supplier of our customers, right? We cannot go that deep if the customers didn't tell us. But if that supplier is also in our supply chain, we can also assess that part as well. Thank you. Kun Prad, how do you see what do you think is the direction of human rights in the future, and what are your future plans relating to this matter?
ข้อ1
First, the direction in the future. First, I think that Thai Thai companies will have to understand about human rights more. I think that currently many companies are focused on environmental issues, but human rights is also a part that is very important because Thai companies do international trade, right? Thai union do international trade, so we understand laws and concerns about foreign governments on human rights. For example, EU is drafting a law on human rights and environmental due diligence, and that would apply to EU companies. And although our company is in Thailand, but we trade with EU companies, in the end, we will have to understand as a counterpart of this company, what do you have to do to comply with their laws and regulations? The other thing that I think that would be good for opportunity for us, we see that a lot of Thai companies are working on sustainability and human rights. Each company have their strong points in a different way. I think that there is an opportunity for them to merge and combine their capacity and work on this matter. My company also works on human rights, rights to education of for migrant workers. As Kun Samatcha has said earlier, he has done some activities relating to that. So I think that it's a good opportunity for us to learn across the sector. And with KBank as well, we had a project KBTG with KBank using blockchain technology to help migrant workers to access digital documents, their identity cards. They can access these documents through digital platform. We have done pilot project like that before, but I think that we all have our strengths, and the next step is a cooperation among us.
Kun Samatcha, do you have anything to add on future direction? Yes, I totally agree with what Kun Prad said, because that's one of the things that our organization also, something that for organizations who just started, because we have just started on working on this. It will be very beneficial if we have other peers organization, for example, who can basically share their experiences in relation to the management. This is Kun Prad, you mentioned a very good point. And so lastly, I would like to all three of you, what would you like to tell the organizations that are just starting to integrate human rights into their operations? They may not be so sure as to the worthiness of this particular initiative. If you have anything to inspire them, or what you want to tell them. So for sustainability operation, as I've mentioned earlier, this is a continuous process. It's not one-off. And also in terms of the human rights initiatives, tone at the top is something that is very important. If we don't have clear strategies, if our organization doesn't believe in this, that this is important, I can say that your organization is not going to be effective on this. So you need clear strategy, you need clear targets that is also feasible as well and measurable as well. And you need to keep monitoring and also tracking of the implementation outcome. And I think that over the 2 days of the seminar held by GPF, all of us agree that this is something that is very important, and that all organizations should be working hard and very seriously as well on this in order for us to implement and to finally kick off this sustainability process. And I think that in terms of the questions relating to our lending criteria, what do we see in the client, for example? What I have provided earlier. If it's only K-Bank that are working on this, or if it's only implemented by K-Bank, it's not going to create any impact to the society as a whole or even the country. And another thing that I would like to add in terms of the way forward, that for financial institutions, the challenges that we face, when we issue new financial products, when we issue new service to our client, that also take into account the human rights. Some of us may perceive that this is, not really related to your life or your day-to-day life, for example. But if you look at it in the view that this is something that we have to keep your data safe, that we need to protect your data, this is something that is also related to human rights as well. It is very close to, our day-to-day life. And something that you cannot forget is that the lives of the people in your organization, you have to take care your employees. You need to ensure that they have their well-being is maintained, and also the current situation that they're facing right now, how to ensure that they can overcome these obstacles, not only for COVID-19, but other challenges that we'll face in the future. So this is something that is part of human rights, that we need to treat our employees fairly. And I don't want people to think that human rights is something too complicated or too far from your day-to-day life. If you really look into it, it's really, something that is intertwined in our day-to-day life very closely as well. Thank you. Mr. Prad, the mic is yours. So the key message that I would like to share is covered partly by Ms. Romchat. So I think tone at the top is something that is highly essential. If it is the tone from the executive, for example, for Thai Union, sustainability and human rights are something that is the core value of our company. That is the tone at the top that we set. And also another point that I would like to echo is that human rights, it doesn't have to start somewhere far away. It can start with your own employees. The fundamental rights of your own employees, your workers, and you can scale up by considering the rights of your traders, for example. And another thing that I would like to mention is traceability. Traceability means that you can trace back the origins of your supplies, for example. If you cannot identify or know the details of your supply chain, for example, the origins of your raw material or who are your suppliers, that is the huge obstacle for your human rights work, because you cannot really identify the risk in the supply chain level if we do not have the traceability, if we do not know how to trace back the origins of our raw material. And lastly, I would like to just add that from the experience of Thai Union, we do not have, we do not have the perfect effort or perfect process on this. We do not, at the time, we did not even have the framework. It is something that we have to continue progressing. We have to continue developing our work in this aspect. We started to look into the issues of wages and labors, so basically it's a year by year, it's an ongoing process. You don't have to start from 100, you can start from 0, you can keep going and keep going. There are requirements, there are regulations and regulatory demands that you need to get, you need to familiarize with. This is something that you need time, and you can just start somewhere and keep going. Kun Samatcha, your floor is yours. So the first 2 points that I would like to mention is similar to the first 2 speakers. The set tone from the top, if they have the executive buy-in, that would be highly convenient, and also that would give the courage, that will basically encourage the employees to do more on that aspect as well. And secondly, we need to ensure that employees understand that we understand what their rights are, because otherwise, the approach that we want to take will not be effective. Also, another thing that I would like to share from my personal perspective is that sustainability efforts and sustainability initiative and also human rights, sometimes we perceive it as, very niche type of work, or the work that needs specialization. But when we start having departments or personnel in our company that work on this, sometimes if having only a group of people in your organization working on this, it does not really expand your perspective towards this particular issue, because it is not about only 5 people in your company. It is human rights relates to everybody, every life in your company. So basically, that is something that I just would like to give as a food for thought. I do believe that, each company has their own expertise. You need to seek, you need to gain more ideas and also to seek other resources. So thank you so much on behalf of the Government Pension Fund and also the United Nations Environment Program on Finance Initiative and also the Stock Exchange of Thailand. I would like to thank all distinguished speakers for your time and also for sharing your experiences with us on human rights work. Thank you so much. So next on the agenda, I would like to invite Dr. Sikanya Yatip, the Secretary General of the Government Pension Fund, to provide the key summary and also the closing remarks. The floor is yours, Dr. Sikanya. So good afternoon again. This is a very, very good session and very valuable session as well. So I'm just gonna take 5 minutes of your time to give you the key takeaways of day 1, day 2, and this last session. So in the morning, we already went through the key takeaways that human rights are universal, interrelated, not isolated, and 3 pillars of the UNGP: protect, respect, and ensure remedies. Expected actions, policy commitment. This is something that is very clear. All the 3 distinguished speakers, Mr. Romchat, Ms. Romchat from KBank, Kun Samatcha from Sansiri, and Kun Prad from Thai Union, that they emphasize on this very, very seriously, that policy commitment and the tone at the top is a very important thing. This is from day 1. On day 2 or today, we already we discussed index and ESG scores, that we should not treat them as a set of fact. We have to analyze and also contextualize it. Also, engagement is key, and we need to have active ownership, which means that we need to have engagement. And GPF is very serious with our engagement with our members as well. And we have experts from Schroders and MSCI to provide us on the factors on relating to ESG rating. And in the afternoon session, we have Dr. Pakorn from the SET, who mentioned the ESG competitive advantage, management and change from negative screening. And also, he mentioned change from negative screening to ESG integration, and that will lead to theme investment. And the focus of the Stock Exchange of Thailand is on management buy-in and also the development of the checklist of social risk, which is based on specific sector by sector basis, and also development of one report and ESG data platform. And on the panel's discussion, we have KBank, who mentioned financial inclusion, social inclusion, long-term gain, and economy society. We have also the core on human rights. That human rights is the core for the very core of the rights that we have. Also, there are a number of projects by KBank, whether it is รวมใจเราไม่ทิ้งกันเท่าแก่ใจดี and also the very last sentence, that sustainability is a never-ending process. This is a very important key away for us today. Also, for the other 2 speakers, next slide, please. The speaker from Thai Union, GPF, we have the opportunity to be engaged with TU as well, and we discussed with the executives of TU about for 2 hours at that time, and it is very impressive. TU is literally the leading agent of change. They want to lead real positive change and see change in initiative that is, a very successful Thai company, and they have human rights due diligence framework, which is a very interesting initiative. And the pillars, the 6 pillars that were mentioned by Mr. Prad is the safe and legal labor pillar, and also that includes the ethical migrant recruitment and labor speak out. For Sansiri, we have never heard of the concept created by Sansiri before, and I'm very impressed by what Sansiri is doing, because they're very serious with children's rights, and they are acting as the voice for these children. So please accept my compliment. What you're doing is very impressive, and we want to be part of that as well, because children's rights is something that we think is a very important and a very good start for whatever it is that we're doing. And also in the last session and advice that are provided by the 3 distinguished speakers, Ms. Romchat emphasized about the continuity of the work tone at the top and collaboration. And this is something that GPF agrees with entirely, because we know that we cannot work alone. We need to work with other partnering agencies, and we need to just keep going. And we cannot leave our employees behind. And also as mentioned by Kun Prad, who emphasized about the tone at the top, that as a very fundamental progress of the step for the company to take, and also that we have to take care of our employees. And the thing that Mr. Prad mentioned that GPF really likes is that the traceability of the supply chain, of the entire supply chain, and also that there is no perfect framework from day one. We need to, start somewhere and keep going. And Mr. Samatcha emphasized about tone in the top as well, and he mentioned about the organizational trap, that you have to balance the PR attempts and also human rights, because otherwise we'll just be saying, but we're not acting on what we said. This is something that the organization can learn as a takeaway. So this is a very, very last session. GPF, on behalf of GPF and on behalf of the host of the joint webinar, Integrating Human Rights into Risk Management, on behalf of GPF, and also this event is co-hosted by UNEP FI and also the Stock Exchange of Thailand. We would like to thank all distinguished speakers who joined us over the 2-day seminar, and also the participants who have been with us from the start until this very minute. And these 13 names on the slide here are part of the success of this joint webinar. If there is any other future opportunity, we would be very pleased if you can join us once more to, discuss about ESG, discuss about human rights, and for us to hear from your valuable experiences. So thank you very much and goodbye.